Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Welcome if you're new, and if you're returning, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you can continue to receive my messages. So today I have really big messages for you, a very big galactic energy update for all of my sneaky foxes, okay? So Vulpeculas, we see you, we see you. Vulpecula is the fox constellation and fuels an archetype called Kitsune. So I'm going to speak about this a little later in the update because you may currently have a Kitsune in your life and it is highly vampiric, okay? Highly vampiric. It's also typically within the relationship dynamic as well, like dating and love interests. So this origin is activating according to the celestial radial body. So I'm going to tell you more about that. But welcome everyone, welcome to this galactic energy update for planetary grid and biological radial alignments according to the celestial influences, and particularly most illuminated right now, Pegassi, the winged horse. So I will be going and doing a reading for the starseed origin to follow as well. But yeah, please go ahead and put a like on this video. I would greatly appreciate this so much. Just helps everybody to get this video to get, more views, helps it ascend within the set of artificial algorithms that we're working with right now. So yes, so the sun at the moment is aligned at the beginning markers of Pegassi according to Indian sidereal 1320 degree houses, which is my guiding force. My most original Earth template compass. And also today I'm recording on the full moon. Today is February 9th, full moon in Leo. Mercury is currently in pre-shadow retrograde, 8 degrees Pisces, and with Mercury staying in retrograde until March 10th. So expect to be going on that internal mental spiral staircase into the deeper subconscious aspects of your mind. That's what the retrograde does, is takes us deeper into our own self. And so, yeah, this might be a time that you are pulling away from other relationships and other people and other friends and other things and kind of going more within your own mind. There's more there for you to work through, especially particularly over the last density wars that we've been going through for the past months leading up until this point. We've gone through a lot of Sophia Christos activations, Palladian, ancient Lemurian codes activating, so much that, has led up until this point. This isn't necessarily relevant right now. But yeah, so now you're going back within and you're going deeper into the mental constructs of your own internal mind and working through some things right now through this Mercury retrograde. Now, even if you follow the astrology out to the new moon, February 23rd, so if you pull the alignments for today, the full moon, pull the alignments for February 23rd, you're going to see that the sun, the moon, Mercury, they're all going to be under 10 degrees Pisces. So from now until then, we are very much within the transitional phases from going from Pegassi to Andromeda. Also, Vulpecula, the archetype of the Kitsune, the Japanese fox that I was just telling you about, and oppositionally, the royal star Fomalhaut, because Fomalhaut is exactly 180 degrees to Pegassi, hence its deep Poseidon connection, which I'm going to talk about. And then finally, we come into Andromeda. So the horse symbolism right now is rising up to the highest atonements of the grid structures within the crystal biological and planetary transmitters. This could be the crystalline structures of the DNA, or also what's considered the silicate matrix. And we're essentially riding this protein expression because it all coincides. Everything comes back to a radial template. They're all interconnected through its transduction processes into the body. And we're riding this essence through planetary memory as it sends these ripples of initiations within the biological tonal lines of the human body. And also the multiple activating pylon networks that are generating from specific anchor points in the planet, depending upon, the structure, the grid line, the seals, and all of that. So then, we consume this radial identity through the memory of the water, our food, and the land, even the air. It's all encrypted within the morphogenetic field of the planet. And this is not just within the flow of the generating currents of your Merkaba. All memory is encoded into the encryption through all exchanges of life. So all people who present to you, they're also going to hold this encryption within them. And that's kind of how you know. It's how you confirm where you are planetarily. You see the archetype playing out in the reality fields that are spinning in front of you, the vortexes. So if you happen to catch my most recent grid update, I talked in depth more about the Jehovian dove grid. So that's activating. We also have the falcon, the phoenix, and then also the great eagle grid is also activating right now. So I always like to kind of bring in some of that grid structure that's playing out as well into my energy updates. But how this particular grid, the Jehovian grid, and I'll leave a link above. I'm not going to stay on this very long, but it all interconnects into the horse mythology. But it was the primary structure for the locations of the 7 Jehovian seals, the dove grid, which sits over North America. So this is important because 4 out of those 7 seals are represented by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which those reality fields are simultaneously playing out to all reality fields on Earth. So there are collective bodies that are very much in the awareness of the apocalypse and all of the symbolisms that are playing out through the revelation. The red horseman, the white horseman, the black and the pale horseman. These also equally symbolically are located at certain points within the body, in our body on the 7th tonal line, on that feminine side of the body. So the representation of the horseman itself is etherically hooked and sealed within your own body as a cap or a limitation, as a blockage to your higher ascension. And just keep in mind that this doesn't define the Pegassi star system or the Pegassi origin. Just keep in mind that this is a contemporary unconscious collective shadow projection and divine designer installation of this celestial template. So it's just a part of the deeper encryption, more of the occult encryption. But is it a coincidence? Of course not, because Pegassi is encoded in this mythology. The expression planetarily, the expression that's encoded in the memory of the landmass and the water and all of the things that I listed above. The chariot horses, they emerge from the sea, and it also emerges from the lightning bolt. So, different formations, and that can be the illumination and the multidimensionality of going from the winged horse to the unicorn, and also the Equidae family on the earth. So what we as contemporary human choose to do with the horse's mythology beyond the 0 point of creation is typically to distort it, make it less and less organic, less and less of the highest density perception. If we can distort it for ego identity gain, then that's usually what happens. And, what else is there to do with it? The Nephilim scream outside the gates of heaven. So I've just been receiving this reoccurring vision. I keep having, it's that the giants, they're walking around in the heavens. I've been having this vision actually for the last couple years when I had the Nephilim come to me in a couple dreams and showed me how they're shackled inside of the earth, inside of these jail cells, and they're literally in chains, and it was showing me their entire, reality field inside of the earth. And then what I could see, what it's expanded into is how that this extension of them does extend into the structures of the 4th through 6th density in the higher harmonic universe, but we just can't physically see them. But there are giants, and it's kind of like, how the ant, it can or cannot be proved if it does or doesn't notate our existence. Kind of the same way with how this formation of their structure projects in 4th through 6th density, so to speak. So off topic, in Greek legend, Poseidon was the creator of horses. Okay, so this is how the horses came from the sea. When Poseidon desired Demeter, she asked Poseidon to create the world's most beautiful animal in an attempt to cool off his advances. So as a result, Poseidon created the first horse, and also he became the god of horses. So, and I feel like that is that symbology to that oppositional placement, right? Pegassi sits almost 180 degrees, because I'm looking at my map here, and almost 180 degrees it looks like it's just off just by a tilt or a scooch, that fomalhaut sits underneath that. So fomalhaut would be the sea that is, it's Pisces. Pisces very much represents the ocean, but this is more of the inner psyche of Pisces, the more subconscious, the inner imagination of Pisces. And so that would very much be an extension of Poseidon, also Jupiter as well, I believe. So it's the time of year where Pegassi energy infuses into the planetary grids, manifesting through multiple collective reality fields, Pegassi extending through several expressions and timelines and interpreted through its place within the galactic density wars, right? Because gosh, Pegassi is just, it's a beautiful, freedom-loving, powerful, pure spirit expression into the angelic kingdom, right? As unicorns, as winged horses, as freedom runners, but equally into the density wars, equally into the battlefield, symbolizing emblems of war. And this is where it gets deep. The Romans, they always associated horses with Mars, the god of war. And then it brings it back to Revelations, and I'm not trying to, quote all this like biblical scripture, because that's really not where I am, but it is a part. I do reference it as an overall piece of information that becomes important, that becomes a part of the entire story that the stars themselves inscribed and gave to humanity. So it's all intermixed. It's all associated in one parallel extension of that fractal reality field or another, right? The four horses symbolizing conquest, pestilence, war, famine, and death, right? And what do we have right now? We have coronavirus. So these are the pre-facets that lead to pestilence through the diabolical and phantom matrices, the reality field spins that are projecting the mechanical simulations of revelations, and for us to tune into that reality field. Whether you transcended this archetype or not, whether you've transcended this, you may have transcended this, you can still access the reality field. Coronavirus, I'm not saying you're accessing that reality field, because as higher dimensional, fifth dimensional beings, we've raised our vibration higher. We don't attune and we don't exist on the vibrational frequency that coronavirus exists, so we don't get sick. We have expanded immunity. We have more evolved antibodies due to the radial evolution that's happening with us consciously within our ascension. But essentially, coronavirus is like the Trojan horse for vaccination, medical, martial law, global emergency bioweaponry. Okay, so this is something I just wanted to tune into really quick, just to create some awareness, no fear. But, we're going to slowly start losing our rights to choose what you do and don't put in your body as more of the infrastructure of the planetary grids unwind from climate change. It's unraveling a lot of these reality fields and foundations from that root chakra, so to speak, within the energy structure, whether that's planetary or biologically. And so the more of the infrastructure of the planetary grids unwind from the climate change, the planetary seals release more pestilence, famine, war, and death. So they have plans to basically vaccinate the whole world. This is going to move in 7.7 billion people. New York is already mandatory with $1,000 fines for not vaccinating your children. California, Mississippi, and Arizona are next. The Aquarian Age witch hunt campaigns will be your unvaccinated children when the pestilence seal releases fully. And this is a reality field, so not everybody is in tune to this reality field, but this is playing out very much for many of us. And remember, all reality fields are simultaneously existing. Planetary and genetic time codes activate in the body for these reality spins to run the sequences. And the government is allowed to conduct experiments on 1% of the population without them knowing. So just stay vigilant, family, because once rights are lost nationally over vaccinations, we're kind of in big trouble. It's that's like a sign, like, hello, like, I don't know how much louder the trumpets need to be, but whatever. Every year, pay attention to Pegassi's planetary alignment, because this stargate in particularly is what brings the clarity and this knowledge to the collective. Pegassi makes what we are in battle for transparent. And this is the thick of it until the final push comes through in March. Okay, so March will kind of be the end of planetary warfare. So yeah, Pegassi are Equidae family, the black horse and the white horse pulling the chariot of Helios, the sun god. I mean, you see how, we're so interrelated with the horse. Rhiannon, the great queen goddess riding the pale horse of death. This entire galactic alignment cosmically, Pegassi placed here for its divine purpose in how the horse mythology has essentially intersected and converged multiple time waves running on these gene codes, or what, the Lyrans call the gene brains. I just put a video, posted it on my Facebook for that Lyran Syrian collective message called Gene Brains. I suggest you check it out. It's about regaining awareness over the regular master genes. So you have specific genomes that are master genes. So you might carry the Melchizedek genetic, or other type of lineages that are more in alignment to the highest ascension. But then there are master regulatory genomes that come in that trump those genetic expressions, and also the formations of the proteins to form. So it's about regaining sovereignty from that point of awareness, right? Because we have to focus that consciously and direct that and navigate that within the body, so that way we stay attuned to the highest timeline and the highest response factor within you. This is basically what the gene brains are that they release the transcription into the collagen for this protein expression and for the transcription. It's kind of like it then braids what it does is it braids the 12 base codes and 12 acceleration codes to regulate the relationship between the human biology soul protein expression with planetary time cycles, in which the biology manifests and self-realizes that reality. So I get off, I seem to go off on these long explanations of this information, but there's so much to be understood within the mechanics that I just feel it's so important. There is also a higher structural order to the protein soul genetics now that one can possess and retrieve through that bone density structure. So if you can take consciousness into the first level of the light body, which is through that holographic universal tree of life, the honeycombs of the bones. I've been shown that we can access, even, I know this is going to sound so crazy, but we can access the dinosaurs through the 44 dormant codons. So we currently use only 20 of the codons in the DNA, but hyper ultra advancement is when these come online in the body. These codons are actually, sorry, I just feel so crazy telling you guys this, but it's actually what changes the species, and it's going through, a regression. What we're doing is we're going through a conscious regression journey back into the insects. So this is what's going to start becoming more and more relevant as more of the grid structures unravel, and there's more separation within the morphogenetic structures inside of the planet. This is where we are planetarily going to kind of get in trouble, because this is when the human soul retrieves the primal instincts of the wasps, or any type of insectoid, especially if they're a predatorial insectoid. If they are a more advanced insectoid or a colonized insectoid, and such pre-human existence survival mechanisms are what's going to come up through those genetic time waves as they emerge through those base radial templates. And as we begin to unconsciously, mentally structuralize prehistoric and pre-universal realms, pre-mutated primal instincts, this is when the human species will be the most agitated and honestly the most savage. So This is how Gaia re-encodes the identity behavior to some degree within the bone density and within the 20 different amino acids, and which the genes are just the recipes for the proteins, and the 20 different amino acids form all complexity we see come into arrangement. So if technically, if you sample dinosaur DNA, you could pull 60% sequence identity. Okay, so this is how you know that we can access that through our own DNA. And if Pegassi is your origin, then these horse fire codes activate inside the DNA for you to call forth that reality alignment. Or if you are just simply attuned to the overall encryption, you may be receiving deep messages regardless of it's in your chart, soul protein genetics, DNA or not, or if one is operating on super quantum computing skills, then they can actually see the protein, then reverse recreate this at the speed of thought within their own codons, building that strain as you feel, right? We literally can look at them, and then there's the DNA begins to encode, and that is a process of feeling as well. So we're creating the strand. So this star system, Pegassi, and particularly this is deeply encoded in the planetary memory fields, the crystalline networks, and is guiding several symbolisms within the higher and lower density levels on the planet. But this Kitsune archetype, guys, okay, family, this has come up because Vulpecula borders Pegassi. So the fox, you may have this energy in your life right now. We're very much aligned to this. I believe I believe Jupiter and Saturn is going through Vulpecula. Okay, so they're here to teach some lessons at this time. And family, beware. They are shapeshifters, and it usually doesn't end well if you encounter a Kitsune. They can carry up to 9 tails. They blind you with flattery, gifts. They see you so transparently that they know everything that you need, and they know everything that needs to be said. And you feel immediately like, gosh, this is too good to be true. They secretly, and then what they do is they secretly remote into your mind, and they start to consume your knowledge. I've received messages from a deep friend, that this is connected to the Anunnaki, that this is an expression of the some of the trickery. But what happens is you will feel filled up in a completely distracted way, while you slowly just give them access to all your records, and they basically eat your intelligence. Sometimes they're sent intentionally. Sometimes they come and incarnate just to have interaction with you, and then they leave. Sometimes they're only here for like 100 years. Sometimes they'll come with memories and records of hundreds of lifetimes. Then they can remote view into your records and tell you things from just lives that are so past, but it reaches into the guts of you somewhere and just pulls this out like how in the hell did you know that? They're really good at this, really, really good at this. And they will often use this trickery on you to get whatever information they've been sent here to retrieve. And they will often, also another thing that they do, this is kind of important, they will often physically sit in the shadows when you speak to them. So let's say you're like doing a Skype with them or something, they will be, they'll make sure something's covered, something's hidden, there's a part of them that can't be seen. They are basically covering themselves so you can't see, because they know it's symbolic for you not being able to see that part of their shadow. And they actually physically hide their tail. Just keep an eye out. If you feel you have a Kitsune, you want to disengage as quickly as the whirlwind began. So I'm just giving you a heads up, guys. This is a real Japanese archetype. It's also native. Highly clever family. Okay, I just want to give you a heads up. Also, Andromeda strongholding the ninth sphere. So we're going to be coming into this planetarily within the celestial universal 12-tree grid, the structure that is implanted within the landmass of the original Atlantis within the 10-sphere cap. It indicates these codes began recording at this time in the Atlantean scrolls, which was as early as 12,000 BCE. This was the horse mythology. The landmass began encoding the horse's consciousness into the planetary grids at this time. This was a time when this portion of collective consciousness came to the forefront as the human race began its obsession with the horse. But it also indicates that Pegassi, with its physical location being half in Andromeda, that it similarly holds the same density structures within the planet as Andromeda. So I think of Pegassi as having similar encryption as Andromeda, but could also be acting as a subharmonic to the encryption of Andromeda. So as far as grid locations, there are several formations of the horse. There is a sacred archaeological site. It's called the Uffington White Horse. This is said to bring in prehistory Iron Age time waves and Akashic records from England, Celtic, Welsh, Anglo-Saxons, and Germanic tribes, and Scotland, all planetary Akashic records exalting the horse. So the horse is highly honored in Celtic culture, seen as the bringer of good luck. Now, the white horse in particular represents freedom, power, travel, movement, the savior at the end of times. But the white horse, I believe in some native expressions, is also considered death. But for the most part, the white horse does represent the light side. But the dark horse, okay, this is important to just, overall understand and know, just because when they present in your reality, it's a symbol. It is very much alluding to your destiny or a deeper understanding in some way. And so the dark horse representing death, the dark horse, actually, this is very interesting. There is a Marines 3rd Battalion, 5th Regiment. This particular group within the U.S. Marines, this group sustained the highest casualty rate during the Afghan War that sits over the ashes of Sumer. And this is the oldest known Sumerian cities, is where these wars were fought out. This is considered the most dangerous place in Afghan. So this Dark Horse Battalion had to go in to fight here. And out of all battalions in U.S. history, they've lost the most lives. And that part of the land, that's pre-dynastic kingship. This is before the flood that this bloodshed is taking place. So the Dark Horse Battalion, they particularly engaged several fatal units in World War I. I mean, I was looking at the list. It's on Wikipedia. If you look up Dark Horse Battalion, several wars that they engaged in World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Operations Desert Storm, Operation Sea Angel, Iraq Freedom Wars, and the War on Terror. It's so crazy. The Dark Horse Battalion role was to locate and destroy enemies by fire and maneuver. So their sole purpose, was they would send the dark horses in to do the bloody work. Like that is the duality in this star system. This is the duality in this alignment. In the star system, it's that of Orion. Okay, I'm just shocked that Orion's not in opposition to Pegassi, because it displays the light and the dark so well, and how all polarities truly exist in all encryption. As its celestial infusion accesses all accessible reality fields and dimensions one can experience here on Earth, all expressions through ego identity, and which ones we particularly take to for war. It only makes sense that Pegassi, where it planetarily aligns. We're here in February and March. We're going to be within Mars. So it assists. It's our tool. It's our animal that we use, the instrument of war. Native American tribes were prized on their wealth by how many horses they had, and the tribes that had horses usually were the ones that won battles. The tribes that didn't have horses, they lost. All of this encoded in the memory fields of the planet. So this radial encryption overall is going to be releasing great clearings of the four horsemen and the harbingers of war, more planetary clearing of the apocalyptic Templar quests, more releases of these time cycles, but also it's going to be repeating of history from a parallel initiation of the future meaning and collective destiny. So many more planetary, Akashic record releases overall as we continue to move forward, more releasing of the collective fear of the end of times. We're now in a time where the majority of people, of cattle brains have been imprinted with apocalyptic visions through Satan world, Holly world, right? Many are, receiving this. It's been downloaded into the subconscious psyche. So now the collective is going to start bringing up, and releasing more fear of the end of time. Many are receiving also oversoul downloads, receiving etheric books. So I've had several friends step forward and say they've received books from their ancestors, literally like scripts, scrolls, gold tablets, emerald tablets, crystal tablets. This is all being passed on to you as Akashic Records release, because there's almost this heightened need to get this information to you, because you're a speaker. You need to speak. You need to download this from the scrolls before all is lost. I mean, this is a part of the fear of the end of time, so no fear, and that's ultimately what we're clearing right now. Pegasus will bring, it's going to bring about noble changes in our human heritage, but it's also our own personal self-perceptions and how we relate to the expression of the spiritual realm, and spiritual warfare. And this is going to accelerate, like I said, rapid oversoul integrations, which overall is good for planetary ascension waves. Also at this time, individual ascension symptoms may be at their worst right now. So long void spaces, highly vibrational body, harder to connect through thoughts, and also to hold memory. So you might be having a hard time bringing neurons together, making thought forms interlink and form fractal fields and geometric shapes. You're kind of losing yourself between the expansions, and getting stuck in certain dimensional fields, almost in like a cloud, like a gray cloud or a smoke. If you see this, breathing, breath work is the best thing you can do. Breath work, you want to breathe the smoke in and out. You want to clear it until you're breathing clear breaths. Okay, if you can visualize that, sometimes that helps. So basically all heightened psychic abilities, full 5D transparency, shape shifting is huge right now. Kitsune, guys, watch out for Kitsune. Also multiple holographic manifestations, transdimensional transmigration, dematerialization, astral travel, projection, all of it. I love you guys so much. This is my energy update for today. Namaste, you guys. Feel free to check out my services, indigoangel222.com, if you'd like to get into some of the deeper mechanics of the morphogenetic field, and also any type of technique for visualization. I have a ton of techniques on my Patreon, also JCL removal techniques on my Patreon, patreon.com/indigoangel. Thank you guys. I love you so much. Namaste and have a beautiful day.